Tonight's big stories: President Marcos's trust and approval rating slide ahead of his third State of the Nation address, according to the latest survey by Pulse Asia.
At least one group is getting ready to challenge the DOF circular compelling PhilHealth to return its excess funds. We'll be speaking with former Finance Undersecretary Shelo Magno about why they think this move is illegal.
And the proposed Philippine Maritime Zones Act moves one step closer to reality after a bicameral conference committee approved a reconciled version. The bill includes Palawan and the Philippine Rise.
Good evening. Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Well, another day, another survey, because we love surveys.
We do.
And today we have the latest trust and approval survey ratings conducted by Pulse Asia. So let's break it down. Nationwide approval numbers for President Marcos went down 2 percentage points from March to 53% in the survey conducted between June 17 to 24. But the survey has a margin of error of plus and minus 2%, so the change is considered statistically insignificant. Vice President Sara Duterte, meanwhile, fared better with her approval rating going up 2 percentage points from March to June, or from 67 to 69%. House Speaker Martin Romualdez's approval and trust numbers came in at 35%, 4 points higher than the last survey.
Now, when it comes to trust ratings, the president saw a 5 percentage point dip in his June score, which dropped to 52%. And perhaps more worrisome is his distrust ratings, jumping 6 percentage points and now stands at 21%. VP Sara, on the other hand, continues to enjoy a high trust rating of 71%, unchanged from her previous score in Pulse Asia's March survey. Senate President Cheese Escudero, who assumed the post just this May, posted a 69% trust score.
Right, let's now try to break down these trust ratings per region. President Marcos scored the highest in Metro Manila and the lowest in Mindanao. As expected, Vice President Duterte did well the most in Mindanao. You can see her enjoying a 95% trust rating from there. Now, Escudero, who hails from Sorsogon in Bicol, also did well in Luzon and Metro Manila. House Speaker and Leyte Congressman Martin Romualdez scored his highest trust rating in the Visayas. Now, earlier on StoryCon, our sister program, Pulse Asia Research Director Ana Tabunda said that it is quite common for presidents to suffer some sort of damage or decline in their ratings halfway through their term. Although there are other factors that do affect this, because we're not yet on the halfway mark. We're just hitting the 2-year mark.
About to enter the halfway mark. That's
yes,
right.
about.
Yeah. Let's. I believe we have that sound bite. Let's take a listen.
We can see the effect of former President Duterte's attacks on President Marcos, especially in Mindanao. Mas comparable kay Noy ang performance at trust ni Bongbong kesa kay President Duterte, kasi President Duterte maintained high performance and trust ratings throughout most of his administration.
Comparisons between Pinoy and Bongbong Marcos in terms of their trust and
this is
approval
what
ratings.
she means in when she pointed out that it's pretty common for presidents to suffer some sort of a decline.
I believe also, parang sinasabi rin ng Pulse Asia at one point, no, that the honeymoon stage is over and now sinisingil na ng mga tao yung president for his campaign promises.
So we're kind the first 2 years, and then by the third year, it's like, where is this?
Just like any relationship, di ba?
That's
simula,
true. That's
okay,
true. Everyone
diba?
puts on their best, puts their best foot forward.
But this survey was actually taken from June 17 to 24, and the key developments during that time was the resignation of the Vice President from the Department of Education as Secretary. It was also when Senator Francis Escudero took over the post as Senate President. Kasama na rin dyan yung suspension of Banban Mayor Alice Go. Of course, all that issue in the headlines, as well as the incidences in the West Philippine Sea.
Right, but balikan natin yung sinabi ni Pulse Asia Director Ana Tabunda, no, na kakaiba nga si former President Rodrigo Duterte, and as we can see, it's sort of getting passed over to his daughter, Vice President Sara Duterte.
Consistently high trust and approval ratings. Doesn't matter what the controversies are during that period in time.
They're kind of invincible in that aspect.
Well, something that was glaring in this survey was the number of the undecided when it comes to the performance of House Speaker Martin Romualdez, 45%. Malaki yun compared to his other numbers, approval and disapproval.
But to put that into context, I remember in an earlier interview that we had with Director Tabunda, Ana Tabunda, she did say na usually hindi masyadong gumagalaw yung sa House Speaker because hindi sila ganun ka-visible. However,
and also Senate President.
And also Senate President. But our current House Speaker has been very active. As we can see, no, kung saan nasan si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, nandun siya. He also has a lot of programs and a lot of ayuda. So, I don't know if that mattered.
Correct.
Or showed in his numbers. Okay, speaking of Vice President Sara Duterte, she says that she was not joking, not kidding, when she appointed herself the designated survivor that is for Monday, the day of the State of the Nation address. And yes, she is still skipping President Marcos's third sauna on July 22. So what did VP Sara really mean? Here's her explanation.
Karon lang ko nakakita og ganing Vice President na ginapakita ang iyang attendance sa tanan mga butang. Dili to siya joke. Dili po to siya pang threat. I think many missed the point. So, para sa ako, wala ka kasabot the first time, I don't think you deserve an explanation.
Okay, so it was not a bomb threat because that's one of the plot lines in the Netflix show.
Marunong si Vice President gumamit ng mga hugot lines mula sa mga pelikula. Yung
I wonder if we'll ever find out what the truth
explanation.
is. Yeah.
Well, I guess not. She's also not a big fan of explaining herself.
Yeah,
if you know
exactly,
this.
exactly.
But she's good with punchlines that go viral. That's for sure.
And she's
They're
also
very
good
cryptic.
at blind items and making parinig, which I, as a citizen, I enjoy it.
And I'm not sure if you're going to enjoy this bit of news, but at least one group is gearing up to legally challenge the Finance Department circular, ordering the transfer of PhilHealth's unused funds back to government to be used in unprogrammed activities. This was confirmed to us by former Finance Undersecretary Shelo Magno on our sister program StoryCon earlier today.
Yes, we are going to file a case before the Supreme Court to question the legality of that GAA provision and the circular of the Department of Finance. Tina-target po namin na within the week ma-file yung case kasama yung iba't ibang sektor, pati na rin ang ating mga doktor. So hopefully by Friday may ma-file natin. Kung hindi po matapos, we'll do it early next week.
Another concerned voice is Senator J.V. Ejercito, who authored and sponsored the Universal Healthcare Law. He said although he understands that government may need funds for other projects, the goals and objectives of the UHC law should be accorded priority. Health funds must be used for health, and they must prioritize increasing the quality of benefits and lower the contributions of the people. Magno agrees.
From our perspective, it's illegal because what essentially they're doing with this provision is to amend all the charters, all these laws that created the GOCCs. Kasi malinaw sa charter ng PhilHealth at dun sa ating Universal Healthcare Law, malinaw doon na sinasabi na kung pondo ang PhilHealth, kung may reserve fund siya, dalawa lang ang maaaring paggamitan nito. Either palakihin yung scope ng serbisyo ng mga mamayan, yung mga benepisyo na nakukuha natin, o ibaba yung premium ng taong bayan.
PhilHealth has already remitted 20 billion pesos back to the Treasury, with 3 other tranches being planned, according to PhilHealth spokesperson Ray Balenya. Balenya also said the transfer was approved by PhilHealth's board of directors and that it didn't come from members' contributions. He also insists that the money being taken from PhilHealth won't affect operations or the financial position of the state insurer.
May matitira po sa atin na sapat, no? Sapat para po Una, sa ating operations. Ikalawa, para pondohan lahat po ng ating nasa benefit plans na nagsimula po ng 2023, maghahanggayan in the next 2 to 3 years. So ibig sabihin ay sapat po, no? We are still in a strong financial position to operate at ipatupad lahat ng ipinangako nating benefit enhancement sa mga tao.
Let's try to flesh this out further with none other than Professor Shelo Magno, who is now back at UP. She also used to oversee the DOF's Fiscal Policy and Monitoring Group and therefore can speak about this matter authoritatively. And also, she made headlines for saying she was pushed out of the DOF for allegedly being a kakampink.
I think she was expired. She expired from the DOF.
Yun yung
Am I
word,
right,
that's
Prof?
right. You made that word viral, Professor. I want to, thanks for joining us, Professor. I want to take off from your interview to our sister program StoryCon just this afternoon, and I want to take off from the point from what you said that you are getting ready to file a case at the Supreme Court to challenge this DOF circular. First of all, who is we? How many? Who's part of your group?
We're still finalizing our list, but that includes our organization Action for Economic Reforms, various groups of civil society, including beneficiaries of PhilHealth. We're also including doctors. So kasama po dyan si Dr. Tony Lechons, Dr. Minggita Padilla, Dr. Tony Dance, at iba't ibang organisasyon pa ng ating mga doktor. So maybe Friday, we'll file the petition or early next week. And we'll also announce the different petitioners.
Just to clarify also, Professor Shelo, sa PhilHealth lang ba ito concerned or is it the whole process na that we believe na is unconstitutional or illegal? Kasi meron ding na-remit na yung PDIC, I believe that's 30 billion and nakaka-worry din yon in case magkaroon ng bank run, yun po yung inaasahan nating pondo pang bayad no, sa mga depositors.
Right. Specifically for the legal case, this will pertain to the added provision in the General Appropriations Act. So it will cover all transfers that were done from the GOCC to the Department of Finance. We're basically questioning the constitutionality of that provision because the Constitution prohibits rider provision. And from our perspective, ito pong dinagdag na provision ng ating bicameral committee ay rider provision dahil siya ay essentially nag-a-amend ng napakaraming batas na tinatamaan dito sa ginawa nilang kautusan sa Department of Finance.
And to be clear, who is the defendant here? Is it the
Well, it will be the executive branch on the basis of issuing a circular, and then we're also going to be questioning the constitutionality of that provision, so Congress, that provision of the GAA.
Okay. Professor, siguro katanungan sa isipan ng marami is, why does PhilHealth have 89.9 billion pesos in excess funds? Ang sabi ng PhilHealth, this does not come from contributions but from government subsidy. So does that mean that there was an overestimate in terms of those subsidies?
Well, there are two sources of funds for PhilHealth. One is from the premium, from the contribution of individuals who are members of PhilHealth who can afford to pay the premium. The other source of fund for PhilHealth are the subsidies that would come from the payment or share of taxes from the tax on tobacco, alcohol, and the sugary beverages. We have sin tax laws and we have the train law that specifically allotted this money to support PhilHealth. And this funding is for the premium of the marginalized sectors, the indigent, the senior citizens, individuals who cannot pay the premium. So it goes back to the principle of having a universal healthcare program. It does not discriminate. We want everyone to be included in the universal healthcare program of the country. So in this case, the big problem is it's very surprising that PhilHealth actually has an 89.9 billion peso balance, unspent fund, no? Because if you look at statistics, this is based on the NDHS data, the National Health Survey data of the Philippines, as pointed out by Dr. Tony Dance. If you look at it, the bottom 20% household in terms of wealth, only 1% of them are benefiting from PhilHealth. So obviously, there's under-enrollment, especially from the indigent sector. So what does this 89.9 billion peso mean? It's not a savings. Ito po ay refleksyon ng kapalpakan ng PhilHealth na gawin yung mandato niya na siguraduhin halos lahat ng Pilipino ay enrolled sa PhilHealth.
Okay, Prof, balikan lang muna natin. No? Kailan nyo ito napansin? Kasi malapit na tayo mag-2025 budget deliberations. Budget season is upcoming. I was just wondering kung hindi pa ninyo napansin, I believe that was you, Mr. Men Santaan of Business World, JC Punong Bayan, and Zaiza Suzara, who we talked to last night. How did this crop up? How did this catch your notice? Dahil ba nag-point out sila around 2 months ago in Congress si Representative Kimbo na yun nga, underutilized yung funds but kulang yung benefits samantala pataas ng pataas yung contributions as per universal healthcare.
This information was actually shared to us by our friends from the medical sector, yung mga doctors natin, and they actually asked us about the validity of this proposal. And that's when we started reviewing and asking around for the related documents to this circular issued by the Department of Finance. And that's when we discovered this inserted provision regarding the unappropriated, unprogrammed fund of the government and the instruction to PhilHealth to turn over the subsidy, the unspent subsidy of PhilHealth.
Okay, quick follow-up. Last night kasi I was asking Miss Saiza kung baga galing kasi sa mga taxes, ganyan, 'di ba? Ang gulo-gulo ng deliberation. So, dahil ba hindi galing sa contributions, sapat na ba yun na explanation na pwede na bang kumbaga gamitin kung saan-saan? Or paano ba talaga gumagalaw yung mga funds? And also kung ang banggit niya kasi is ang DOF only, kumbaga nagpalabas sila ng circular dahil nauna na yung Congress to say, and therefore dapat yung Congress daw yung kumbaga sa kanila nanggaling yung bola. How do we...
That's correct, because the circular of the Department of Finance is based on that provision of the General Appropriations Act. So nauna ang Congress na mag-utos sa DOF na gawin ito. But ang problem is, under the Universal Healthcare Law natin, it's very clear how the money of PhilHealth should be spent. There are only 2 ways on what PhilHealth should do. One is to increase or expand the benefits that we are getting from PhilHealth if they have money, extra money to do that, or to reduce our premium. Wala pong sinasabi doon na kung merong unspent money ang PhilHealth, ito ay kailangan ibalik sa national government. That's one. And then second, it goes against the idea of universal healthcare law nga. Because the point is, it's a socialized program. You have to be able to access and have access to insurance regardless of your capacity to pay the premium. So itong subsidy po nito, ang nire-reflect nito ay yung premium para sa mga mahihirap nating kababayan. So kung babawiin mo yan, ang nadideprive po ay yung mga mahihirap nating kababayan na sana ay na-enroll sa PhilHealth. Pero dahil sa kapalpakan ng PhilHealth, hindi po natin yan magagawa ngayon.
Right. That's why I was asking who is going to be the defendant in your suit, because technically it's Congress that enabled this. The DOF has issued a statement defending the move. It said partly, hibernating funds can help the nation without harming government corporations. It's better now than raising new taxes. And then it listed a slew of projects that still need to be funded. Some of them are critical projects, from agriculture to infrastructure. You came from DOF, Professor. Why do you not buy this?
Yes, I agree that hibernating funds is not a good use of money. But at the same time, I see that the reason why this fund is existing is because of the inefficiency of PhilHealth. Right? Shouldn't it also be our priority to ensure that the low-income households are enrolled in PhilHealth, that they should be protected, and that they have access to health insurance? So what the executive branch should be doing is to force PhilHealth to improve its performance. If they're saying that infrastructure, the small projects, etc., are all priorities, I think we should also prioritize the health of our people. And so it's not a valid excuse that just because there's this unspent fund in PhilHealth will let PhilHealth off the hook in terms of its inefficiency, just take the money and put it somewhere else. I think we have to be very clear about this. This money was intended for Filipino to have health coverage para po maibsan yung kahirapan sa pagbabayad ng hospitalisasyon, sa pagkakasakit, etc. Yun po yung purpose ng batas. Ngayon, ang ginagawa po natin, nagbubulag-bulagan tayo, we're denying basically the Filipino people of their right to have access to better health care if we're gonna deny them of this insurance coverage. Natutuwa nga ako because I was listening to the statement of PhilHealth. They're saying that they have enough funds to cover everyone who are under the benefit plan. But the point is, part of their mandate is also to ensure that the marginalized nga, all senior citizens, those who cannot pay the premium, should be enrolled. And based on the data, 1% of the bottom 20% are the only ones benefiting. So we're the 19%, diba? So that those are the individuals, households that they should target, and they should ensure to be enrolled in the PhilHealth program.
Okay, Professor, can you explain to us how unprogrammed appropriations are computed? Because I believe it was also contested back in the BICAM when they inserted from 281.9 billion to 731.4 billion yung unprogrammed appropriations. Paano nga ba, saan nanggagaling yung mga numerong yun? At anong mga programa usually ang inilalagay doon?
So, the National Expenditure Program, ito po yung proposed budget ng executive branch. Nanggagaling po yan sa iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno, kino-consolidate, identify ng executive yung total budget natin at ipapasa po yan sa Kongreso para tingnan at i-review ng Congress. Ang function ng Congress ay maaari silang mag-reallocate ng pera sa iba't ibang programa, sa iba't ibang proyekto, pero hindi nila pwedeng lakihan yung size ng budget. Ito pong unprogrammed fund ay kasama na doon sa proposal ng iba't ibang ahensya. Ang reason po kung bakit siya tinatawag na unprogrammed fund ay yung mga projects na to, the only way that they can be implemented is if the government has extra revenue. Meaning kung nagkaroon po ng new taxes na na-implement, ibig sabihin may karagdagang pera yung government. O kaya kumita tayo sa halimbawa nagkaroon ng changes sa exchange rate. Tumaas ang dolyar, tataas ang tax na kailangan mong bayaran kung ikaw ay nag-i-import ng good. So magkakaroon ng dagdag na revenue yung government dyan. Pagka pumasok yung dagdag na revenue on top of what was projected to be the revenue for the year, then pwede na nating pondohan itong unprogrammed programs and projects na to. Kaya kadalasan yan, dinidetermine mga third quarter of the year, fourth quarter of the year, kung sigurado na tayo na mapupondohan natin yung portion na programmed, yung may nakalaan na budget. Ngayon, what happened in this recent move of Congress for the 2024 GAA is they've increased that unprogrammed fund from around 200 billion pesos to 700 billion pesos. Basta nadagdagan siya ng around 450 billion pesos. So, a number of congressmen also questioned the constitutionality of that because, as we said, according to the Constitution, the mandate of Congress is to review and reallocate the budget, but they cannot expand the budget. Hindi pa natin pwedeng palakihin yung pie. Pwede nating baguhin yung paghahati, pagsa-slice ng pie. Pero yung size ng pie should stay the same. Pero yung ginawa ng bicameral committee, this is not the whole Congress pa nga eh. This was just done by the bicameral committee. What they did is to increase the size of the unprogrammed fund. But not only that, no? Kasi usually ang ilalagay mo sa unprogrammed fund, yung hindi na masyadong priority. Kasi nga maghihintay ka pa ng pondo para ma-implement mo yan. But what these members of the bicameral committee did is to remove some of the planned projects under the program sa mga ibang ahensya natin, yung mga priorities doon, nilipat nila dun sa unprogrammed. And then they started inserting their pet projects in that programmed portion of the budget. Parang napaka self-centered interest lang. Kasi this did not undergo deliberation. Kasi ang budgeting process natin, napakahaba niyan. Beginning from the department, sa agencies na nagpo-propose, dapat may consultation na yan. The public can scrutinize, review, examine, listen to the deliberation. But this insertion of their pet projects under the programmed appropriation, this was done during the bicameral committee hearing. And then, yun ngang mga na-identify na priorities, yun yung nilagay nila sa unprogrammed fund. Kaya ngayon, they're cramming. They added that provision to make sure that there will be funding for this unprogrammed appropriations. If you look at the items, one of the items, AFP modernization. I checked it because originally, it's part of the DND budget for AFP modernization. And then it was reduced by 100 million and was transferred to the unfunded program. Okay? And then, if you also look at the budget of the DPWH, it was increased by 100 billion. So yung mga pet projects sa mga congressman at senador natin, dyan pumasok karamihan siguro sa DPWH. So it's very, very problematic.
Okay, we've run out of time. We want to keep talking to you about this, so we'll try.
It's very complicated.
It is, but it's also
So interesting.
It's also an important topic. But we'll try to have you back again, Professor Magno, when you filed your suit at the Supreme Court, and then we can hash out the details of that. Thanks so much for taking time out to talk to us tonight, Sheila Magno, former Finance Undersecretary.
Well, up next, more taxes, more funds. We'll be speaking with tax expert Mon Abrea about the BIR's move to impose withholding tax on online sellers. Oh, you don't want to miss that? Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You are watching The Big Story here in One News.
Online sellers are now being required to pay withholding tax. Effective July 15, the BIR, Bureau of Internal Revenue, ordered e-shopping operators like Shopee and Lazada to withhold a 1% tax on sellers using their sites. However, there are exemptions. The withholding tax shall not be collected if the annual total gross remittances to an online seller for the past taxable year has not gone beyond 500,000, and if the cumulative gross remittances to an online seller in a taxable year has not yet exceeded 500,000. The BIR says digital financial services providers have until October 12 of this year to comply.
Is it right and fair for the BIR to impose these taxes on online sellers? Let's ask that question to tax expert and Asian Consulting Group founding chairman Mon Abrea. He joins us live from the UK.
Wow, check out that
Is
backdrop.
it a good morning there?
No, wait, I gotta see.
Ang ganda ng backdrop.
Hi, Mon.
Hi, Mon.
Hi, Mon. Can you hear us? Looks like he's
Mon
coming in a bit
froze.
choppy from the UK. Can you hear
Hi,
us?
hi.
There.
Hi, good morning.
Ayun,
Good evening.
Okay, good morning. Mon, unang-una, the BIR says there are no more extensions for this. This will be effective July 15. They have already given a 90-day grace period. And they argue that this will level the playing field with online and brick-and-mortar stores. But the chief economist says that this could lead to higher prices and fewer choices. Ano ba yung, what are your predictions? What will be the effects on the market when this tax comes into play?
Well, technically, it's effective already.
Oo nga pala.
Yeah,
July
as
17
we mentioned before, when they initially released the regulation, the intention is clearly good, but there are unintended consequences. Number one, a lot of our online sellers are really not registered, or they are still not in the formal economy. And now that this will be imposed, it's like they will be penalized for not being ready, or for not having that financial capacity to actually formalize their business. So ang lagi naman nating sinasabi, hindi naman masama na i-implement yung batas. Although let's clarify that this is an expansion of the scope of the withholding tax. Ibig sabihin, wala namang bagong batas eh. Hindi naman talaga sila tinataksan. Ang sinabi lang ng BIR, dahil hindi namin kayo makolektahan, we are now asking the online platforms to actually do it for us. So they're passing actually the burden to the online platforms and the digital service providers. So I think what is necessary here is for them to be more considerate in terms of assisting our online sellers to make sure na in case they will not be able to comply, sana naman hindi kagad patawan ng mga penalties kasi the penalties are very high. So we're talking about 25% surcharge, 12% interest, and up to 50,000 penalty. And there's a possibility na pwede din sila makasuhan ng tax evasion if they start earning money or generating sales at hindi pa sila registered. So medyo harsh talaga yung batas. Sana yung harshness na, diba, nagagamit na sa mga talagang hindi nagbabayad ng tax. But those who are still starting, that I think is something that we have to be more considerate.
Pero Mon, aside from the fact no, na ipapataw nga nila to at medyo biglang, wow, andito na yung deadline. Apart from that, hindi ba naman fair na patawan din talaga ng tax ang online sellers? To begin with, 1% lang naman ang withholding tax. Hindi siya ganun kataas compared sa brick and mortar sellers or even mga normal employees or normal workers.
As I have said, I think it's literally making the playing field fair or patas para sa brick and mortar. But again, ilan lang naman yung kumikitang milyon-milyon. Sana nga tinarget na lang muna nila yung mga high-earning na online sellers, di ba? Kasi yung mga maliliit, tatamaan din sila. So yun lang naman yung point natin. Yes, it will make the playing field fair, but it will have an added cost, unnecessary cost dun sa mga hindi ready. And let's not forget, under the train law, required din ang mga online sellers to issue electronic invoice. And they haven't talked about it kasi hindi pa ready yung electronic invoice system ng BIR. Pero ang tagal na yung train law. Mandatory din na pagka online seller ka or nasa e-commerce business ka, hindi manual receipt ang dapat i-issue mo kung hindi electronic invoice.
Well, the reason, Mon, that a lot of the sellers, the online sellers, are not registered is because they're small-time sellers, right? They're people who are just trying to do side hustles to earn extra income, a little bit here, a little bit there. What broader impact do you think this might have? Will it discourage people? Will it drive people underground? Ano kayang unintended consequences?
Actually, ang pinaka-masaklap na mangyayari dito, magka-cash na lang yung mga tao at gagamit na ibang platform. Like those who are selling through TikTok, practically hindi siya covered kasi they are just marketing it tapos pwede nilang gawing cash on delivery. So pag cash on delivery, hindi pa rin makakapture ng BIR. Or yun na nga, mas magiging risky para sa both seller and buyer kasi iiwasan nila yung platform dahil babatayan siya ni BIR. But again, ang objective natin dito is to level the playing field. But in the end, nagkakaroon siya ng unintended consequences. In fact, ang proposal ko before, final tax. Kapag ka below 10 million, for example, na sales lang yung online sales small transactions mo, dapat nag-withhold na lang ng final tax para wala nang kahit anong compliance yung mga online sellers na maliliit. So again, the threshold may vary. Pero kasi ngayon, sabi nga, is 1% lang naman. Pero kasi ang consequence nun, first, they have to be registered, which should be the case. But a lot of them are really so small that it will be so costly or not
Tedious.
easy for them to actually go through the process. Pero again, yung malalaki, sila dapat yung tutukan. Sila dapat yung talagang bantayan. Kasi ang dami dyan, diba? Yung iba nga, sobra pa yung publicity na they become a billionaire because of online selling. Sila talaga dapat makolektahan ng tax. And 1% is not enough. They should really be paying everything.
Yeah.
12% VAT, that 35% income tax per personal. Kasi sabi nila, mayaman sila eh. Diba? So, but I
Pero
don't think they're paying taxes.
Right. Mon, hindi sapat yung 500K, there is some sort of threshold there. I was just wondering kung sa mental math mo, sapat na ba yung 500,000 to shield yun nga yung mga smallest of the small, kung baga na sellers?
Actually, ang reference nila doon is yung 250,000 exemption under trade law. Kasi diba, ang sabi, 1% of 1/2 of gross remittance. So, ibig sabihin, minultiply lang nila sa 2 yung income tax exemption threshold ni trade law, which is kapag kumita ka ng 250,000 pesos, exempted pa sa income tax. So, since 1/2 lang naman yung i-withhold, so kung 500,000, ang 1/2 nun is 250,000, dapat wala pang withholding kasi under trade law, exempted pa siya sa income tax. But again, we just want to educate din the public, yung mga maliliit na online sellers. If I were you po, bago po kayo magrehistro sa BIR para hindi kayo mamoblema dito, magrehistro muna kayo sa sa negosyo centers ng DTI. Sa negosyo centers, you can avail of the BMBE, Income Tax Exemption under Barangay Micro Business Enterprise. I don't want to sound like ayoko makakolekta si BIR, pero hindi kayo dapat yung hinahabol ni BIR. So panawagan po sa lahat na maliliit na online sellers, yung malalaki, huwag kayo makisali. Yung maliliit na online sellers, huwag po kayo magrehistro sa BIR nang hindi nyo ina-avail yung income tax exemption under BMBE sa negosyo centers po ng DTI. Nationwide po yan. Pwede din po online. So please apply muna ng exemption bago mag-apply sa BIR kung hindi pa po kayo rehistrado para hindi po kayo makisali sa gulo na to. Because at the end of the day, this is what I see. Because hindi maayos yung sistema, lahat nadadamay. Ang daming hindi nababayad pero hindi nila makolektahan. So they're being strict and it's applied to all. So ganun yung nakikita kong problema dito.
Okay, Mon, what will be the challenges of applying this new tax? You already mentioned na baka dumami yung mga mag-black market. Tama ba ang pagkakaintindi ko doon?
Yes.
Bukod doon sa TikTok, meron din tayong Facebook Marketplace where scams
Exactly.
abound.
Mga carousel, ganyan.
Yeah, and bukod sa online shopping platforms, I believe what's included here are also digital food and delivery, including booking, accommodations, and all of those. Kaya bang habulin ng BIR yan at paano yun? Lahat ng platforms, ibig sabihin, iisa-isahin nila?
Actually, medyo ambitious yan because right now we are unable to collect taxes from tech companies who are not registered in the Philippines. And most of these booking platform are not registered in the Philippines. So how do they collect? Like Facebook. So now we are talking about Booking.com, Airbnb. So most of them are not registered in the Philippines. So again, suntok sa buwan yung ginawa nila. But regarding the other implication, ako ang nakikita ko pang isang negative implication nito is it will discourage the use of digital transaction or money. Instead na gumamit sila ng digital platforms, yung mga GCash, Paymaya, magka-cash na lang sila. Kasi yung cash hindi matatax ni BIR.
Mon,
So
sorry.
again, instead of us moving forward, imbis na progressive tayo, nagtatagot, mag-underground ngayon yung mga tao.
Right, Mon, sorry, I know you have to go very quickly. You have class pa, but I can't let you go without asking this question. You've been
Sige lang.
holding
Ma'am, kinausap yung teacher.
you've been holding international road shows all over the world, Asia, US, Europe,
Yes.
trying to convince foreign investors to come and invest in the Philippines, do business. You're talking about the ease of paying taxes law. What has the reception been like so far? What kind of feedback are you getting?
Yeah, we're happy to share that the Philippine embassies, the consulate, the Philippine Trade and Investment Centers, and the foreign chambers help us in doing our roadshow more than 15 countries, US, Asia, Europe, even here in London, UK. And unfortunately, I have to take a study leave. But you know what is compelling, and I hope that our government is listening. We cannot keep inviting our foreign investors if we do not improve our system. Everyone is complaining about BIR, the VAT refund, the BIR audit. This is across all countries. in Asia, in US, in Europe, foreign companies, foreign investors, they are complaining about their VAT refund. They're complaining about the unnecessary, costly BIR audit. So we are proposing now, and thank you to Senator Gatchalian, in the Senate version of our Create More bill, they have inserted already the removal of the VAT refund processing from BIR. Medyo, hindi naman hopeless, pero close to. Kailangan talaga alisin na sa BIR, then gawing electronic so that it will be moot and academic. Once the VAT were paid, the government is obliged to refund it to our foreign investors. Wala dapat dahilan na may bura yung invoice, kulang yung dokumento. Those are petty concerns. And we're talking about billions of investors.
Right.
Japanese, Europeans, they're all complaining. Germans, lahat, everywhere. And I'm not saying this because I want to criticize the government. No, they are the one criticizing us.
Yep.
And I receive all this feedback. So our proposal is already there. I hope we pass it. We take it seriously. BIR should be controlled. They should be collecting from the tax evaders. Bakit mo hinahabol yung mga may tax exemption?
Yep.
Kung hindi legit yung tax exemption nila, penalize BOI and PESA.
Yeah.
But if they have legit tax exemption, don't bother them. For the MSMEs, don't bother them because even if you bother them, you won't be collecting billions of taxes. Habulin nyo si Parmali, habulin nyo yung mga malalaking kumpanya na hindi nagbabayad ng buwis. And of course, risk-based audit. Let's stop this random shenanigan audit.
Yeah.
It should be based on risk.
Yeah.
Yung high risk lang ang ino-audit. Huwag
Yeah.
yung buksan ng libro ng lahat ng kumpanya. Nobody wants to do business anymore in the Philippines, and yet they are still helping to promote the Philippines. Everyone is going to Vietnam. Let's wake up. Everyone is going to Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia. Number 6 po tayo in
Right.
terms of FDIs. That is after all the world trips of the president.
Right.
We are helping the president. We are helping the government. Sana naman the government will help our country.
Yeah. We will talk about
Do
that another
better.
day.
Parang na-miss na yung Pilipinas, no? Naramdaman ko eh. Oo. Baunin mo yan. Study well. Enjoy. I think, is it summer over there?
Yes.
Summer, yes.
And share those insights when you come back. Thank you so much for joining us tonight or this morning. Juan Abrea, tax expert and founding chairman of the Asian Consulting Group.
Okay. Na-stress
Ang
ako.
dami na.
Break muna tayo. Right after the break, the reconciled version of the Philippine Maritime Zones Act is now up for the president's signature after it was approved by a bicameral committee. The details when the big story returns. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You are still watching the big story on One News. Two pieces of good news as far as the West Philippine Sea goes. One, the Maritime Zones Bill moved one step closer to becoming law after getting the approval from the Bicameral Conference Committee. And two, the Philippines and China worked out a new deal to facilitate faster communication on maritime issues. Ria Fernandez-Obina has that story.
The proposed Maritime Zones Bill, which defines the extent of Philippine waters, has been approved by a bicameral conference committee. Senate Majority Leader Senator Francis Tolentino, the bill's principal author, said the final version of the proposed Philippine Maritime Zones Act included Palawan and the Philippine Rise.
Points ay sinama natin yung sa Palawan, sinama natin yung sa Philippine Rise. Tapos nireconcile natin yung provision ng internal waters at saka archipelagic waters, which is legal and technical. Yun lang nagkaroon ng ano. Okay na ngayon. Okay na ngayon. So for signing na rin yun ng Presidente kasi sinabi niyo yun dati sa Singapore na kailangan i-approve na.
Tolentino said this is a milestone not only because it clarifies the country's maritime boundaries but also reaffirms its rights over its waters.
Maliwanag yun na may batas tayo na kung saan tayo pwedeng maglayag, pwedeng mangisda. Kagaya nung pinuntahan ko kahapon, nandun ako dun sa nawawalang mangingisda sa Zambales. Hanggang hindi ko nakikita, 14 days na.
The senator is not certain if President Bongbong Marcos could sign the newly approved bill by Monday, but he could possibly mention it in his State of the Nation address. Chinese ships are still quite visible in parts of the West Philippine Sea. Recently, the PCG ship BRP Teresa Magbanwa spotted the China Coast Guard vessel 5901, dubbed the Monster Ship, in Escoda or Sabina Shoal. The PCG has been monitoring it since it was first spotted in the area on July 3.
The China Coast Guard Monster Ship remains to be inside the Escoda Shoal. It never departed and still anchored there.
Based on the Philippine map, Escoda Shoal is only 71 nautical miles or just over 100 kilometers from Palawan, well within the country's EEZ. The PCG says it challenged the monster ship several times, but it remains anchored there.
Almost every hour kapag ay kita namin may ginagawa sila. But the same thing, as I said, they're also going to challenge us back and then claim sovereignty also in Escoda Shoal. Again, it's not just sovereign rights that they're claiming. The weird part is that whenever they challenge us of this China Coast Guard monster ship, they're even claiming that they have full sovereignty in Escoda Shoal.
Also on July 14, another one, a 135-meter CCG ship with hull number 5303, was spotted near Lubang Island, which was just 40 kilometers west of Batangas. Still, there has been some progress on Philippines-China bilateral ties. The two recently established a new mechanism that allows the presidential offices of both countries to call each other through an emergency hotline. The Foreign Affairs Department confirmed that the arrangement provides Beijing and Manila various channels for communication to settle maritime issues. The accord, which was first reported by the Associated Press, was signed during the bilateral consultation mechanism held in Manila earlier in July. It provides for direct lines of communication between representatives of the presidents of the Philippines and China, as well as the DFA and China's Foreign Affairs Ministry. The accord, once in effect, will also activate a communication channel between the Philippine Coast Guard and the Chinese Coast Guard. While all of this was going on, the AFP confirmed that U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Air Force General Charles Q. Brown Jr. arrived in the country on Tuesday. Brown is set to conduct engagements with AFP Chief Romeo Browner Jr. and other military officials.
Pinapakita nito na yung sinasabi nila na solid yung commitment ng US in this alliance, no. If you look at the activities that are happening, continuous naman tayo sa lahat ng mga activities that are involving the US.
Brown is also set to visit one of the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement or EDCA sites of the Philippines and the US. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
All right, moving on to local politics. Manila Mayor Honey Lacuna said that she is giving former Mayor Isko Morena time to reconsider his possible mayoral bid in the 2025 polls. In a statement, Mayor Honey said she understands, quote, the reality of politics, but her commitment to Moreno predates their Isko-Honey tandem in the 2019 elections. She says that commitment remains and that her sibling love for him has not changed. Lacuna went on saying, quote, in my heart, I am confident that we are both dedicated to serving Manileños. Thus, I am giving my dear brother, former Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso, time to reconsider his plans. He still has time to reflect on his decision. Moreno served as Manila mayor for one term, winning the 2019 polls with Lacuna as his running mate. Moreno then ran for president in 2022 but landed in 4th place, while Lacuna ran for Manila mayor. He endorsed her mayoral bid. Lacuna is expected to seek re-election. On social media, apparently there have been calls for Moreno to run for mayor again, with Moreno himself sharing a video of residents chanting, "Bumalik ka na." Moreno captioned this with, "Laging may awa ang Diyos," along with the hashtag, "Time will tell."
On to the lighter side of things. So let's go to our Olympians with nine days to go, I believe, or 8.
So exciting.
As Filipina fencer and Sam Katantan Olympic boxer Carlo Paalam were treated to some surprises during their preparations for Paris 2024. Longtime mentor Amatov Canlas flew in from the Philippines on Monday night to join Sam Katantan in Metz, France, as she prepares for Paris 2024. This reunion will be a significant boost for the 22-year-old fencer, as Canlas has been her mentor since she was 10 years old. Katantan recently began her sparring sessions against members and the resident coach of Société d'Escrime de Metz. Now, speaking of another surprise, returning Olympian Carlo Paalam spent his 26th birthday with a surprise celebration from Team Philippines after his continuous preparation for Olympic Games Paris 2024. Fellow boxer and Tokyo 2020 bronze medalist Yumir Marshall led the festivities just as Paalam ended his sparring session against Engsaikan Oyunerden of Mongolia. Marshall served as the special referee of that session, and despite being away from family, Paalam felt the love on his special day from Team Philippines prior to the Olympics. July 26th.
Next Friday na.
It came up fast, huh?
So fast.
I know. We'll be there trying to cover the opening ceremony, I guess. It'll hit at around our time or no, later.
More or less. Later
More or
than
less.
our
Mid-
time.
Slightly later.
Parang I think
oh.
2 o'clock yata yung opening eh.
Oh, well, it's 7 hours
2 a.m.
behind. Oh, 2 a.m.
Yeah.
No, 2
2
a.m.
a.m.
our
Philippine
time.
time.
Parang 2 a.m. So we won't be here.
But
Doing
we'll
the
all
news
be
checks.
up watching. Of
For
course.
sure.
It will be a Friday anyway, so no work the
100
next
years
day.
of sending athletes.
And I heard so many people are going to Paris because it's Paris. It is Paris.
Still
It's pretty
waiting
special.
whether the sun will be swimmable by then. No, because wala lang. I mean, they've put so much money
The river
into
Seine.
it,
Beach volleyball will be in front of the Eiffel Tower. And
Wow, so
skateboarding
nice.
also.
It'll be so
Yeah.
picturesque.
That is a really, really great park, that part of Paris. But that's it for the big story here in the Philippines tonight.
We are on news all sides all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.